Thanks again for the brave that have stayed, notwithstanding the timing, right? Today, I think we'll have the great opportunity to hear a little bit more about futuristic smart city, cognitive city project, which is NEON. Or actually, even as you pointed out on the other panel, it's not a city here. We talk about kind of a country-wide cognitive program. So maybe the first question to you, Fabio, is a little bit more like to set the stage. What we are doing at NEOM. What is the vision of NEOM? And then maybe we'll dwell a little bit more later in the rest of the panel.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So first of all, talking about NEOM, NEOM is what we call the country of the future. As he correctly says, it's not a city, it's a country. It's about 26,500 square meters of land in the northwest part of Saudi Arabia. It's in front of Egypt on Sharm el-Sheikh. And we are going to build this country from the ground up, because we started the project about 3 years ago when the company was officially launched in January 2019. It's going to be basically formed with the 16th sector, 5 cities. The sector will span from technology, energy, water, food, mobility, air mobility, ground mobility, everything you think, because when you build a country, you need to have everything. So out of these 16 sectors, we also building 5 different countries within the 5 different cities within the country, and all this one is going to be hyper connected. When you build a cognitive city that is behind smart, you need to think about how you can maximize your data. So first of all, what we are going to do is we're looking at what is the 3 building blocks in building a cognitive city. First of all, you need to have the connectivity. The connectivity is not just 5G. It's 5G, it's fiber, it's subsea cable, it's low orbit satellites. This is extremely important to allow this one, because in a cognitive city, everything we move, you need connectivity. No matter if you are in a remote place using satellites, when you are in a connected place using fiber or 5G. The second thing is the data is growing exponentially. Because as I was saying this morning, in a cognitive city, you're going to use not 5-10% of the data. You're going to use almost 90% of the data. All these things, all these sectors need to be connected. So when you use 90% of the data, you need to have a huge data center to talk this data, crunch the data, and do the services. At the end of the day, also you need a strong application and software layer that allow this data to be connected. That's what we call NEOS. It's going to have an operating system to connect all the sectors between each other. So those are the 3 building blocks in building the new cognitive city. Then we need absolutely we build with a clear fundamental for NEOM. The 3 things key for NEOM are: number 1 is sustainability. So we look at green energy. We want to be fully green by 2030 with the vision of Saudi. In order to do that, we have 3 kinds of energy. One from the sun, one from the wind, and one from the hydrogen. That's the reason why you need to plan ahead in advance how much energy you need, not only for the different sector, but also for the data center that we're going to build. So sustainability on energy, number 1. The second thing is conservation of the place. We are not building just to build. We are building to create a country. The plan is to build no more than 5% of the territory. And we look very well on how we build to make sure that we conserve the nature, no matter if it's on the sea or on the ground. Even when we look at where we need to build, in my case, I manage the data center, we look very well the place where we need to build the data center. Is the right place? How is the conservation of the animal around? So that's the number 2. Number 3, we also build in a way we can scale, because the growth of the data will be enormous. We need to make sure that we have enough space to fulfill the demand of the city. So again, connectivity, computer, and application that we allow to do that.
Okay, great. So now the project started a few years ago. You have ahead of you still a long journey.
Yes.
But on the other side, you have the luxury to start from scratch, right?
Yes.
You can tell us maybe a little bit about the challenges, the biggest challenges you faced so far to get to where you are today. What do you expect to be the next challenges for the next 2-3 years?
Yeah.
I guess you'll be building by blocks, right? So we'll not
Yeah, absolutely. So the challenge is, because you start from scratch, you need to build on infrastructure. Infrastructure is not only the connectivity, because I talk about the technology. Think about the water, think about the sewer. I mean, everything needs to be built from scratch that is not over there. So the challenge is that you need to make sure that all the key stakeholders work together in a nicely manner. Because, for example, I build data center. If I don't have the water connectivity, how can I run a data center if I cannot do the cooling? If I don't have the connectivity coming on time, how can I run the data center? And most important, if I build in a specific zone, then I need to check with the chief of environment that I'm doing the right things. Is the right zone to do that? So all the key stakeholders need to be connected. It's like if you manage an orchestra, you have the director of the orchestra, and everybody needs to work to respect the timeline of each other. You are not like in a city where everything is already done, you pick up the phone, okay, I need connectivity over there, done. No, okay, you need connectivity. How much terabyte you need, by when? You need water, how many gallons of water you need, by when? Because we're starting from scratch, so we need to predict the consumption of each utility we need to use. That's a big deal for a country, it's not a city.
Very clear, very clear. And in terms of governance, the structure of the governance of the project, what do you think have been the best choices in terms of governance decision or governance structure better, in order for you to make sure you have less challenges into the planning and deployment?
Yeah.
So it's, again, here you are starting from scratch, so you also can to some extent decide about your governance.
Yeah, it's all about communication with the other sector. As I say, we have a 16 sector, and it is extremely important that the sector talk to each other, because we can do mistake. Everybody does mistake when you build. We want to make sure that when we learn of what we are doing, if we can do better, if someone is the pioneer to do something, he can transfer the knowledge to someone else, or vice versa. If I need to build something new, before I start from scratch, I say, is anybody do it already before me, or is planning to do? Which challenge they found? So we need to talk to each other in a very nicely manner. That's what we do.
Very clear.
Yeah, we have a strong governance. We have every team has a project plan, how they need to do, the entry gate, exit gate, to make sure that we do it in the right way.
Okay, let's go maybe now a little bit more into the technology aspect of this big project. So I guess you always have choices of make versus buy. What are let's say the basic decisions in terms of developing technology internally, because it's maybe critical, versus accessing innovation from outside?
No, absolutely. This is a very good point. We are not aiming at all to build everything we do ourselves. It would be impossible. How can you do that, even if you are a small country? So our plan is, we did what we call the master plan about what we need. Then we are working with the ecosystem of partners to see what is available already in the market, or what can be developed. So because of that, if I take my responsibility in battle computer innovation, we are looking at, okay, what is available now that I can leverage versus what I can build, taking in consideration the local climate where we live, because the climate over there is different from many other countries. So we look at what is existing today. So sometimes we create new technology, for example, the operating system that connects all the city, we are creating that one. But when we look at the different building blocks, we look at what is available on the market, how we can leverage that, how we can explode to make even bigger. And also, we want to create a way that whatever we create, that will be unique, we can export outside as well. So we are aiming to create an ecosystem. If you look NEOM, we want to attract the big talent in the world. That's what we are doing. We attract talent, we attract solution, we have to work together to make it happen.
Very clear. Considering what you need to do the next 3 or 4 years, what are you missing? I mean, what do you think the world is missing in terms of technology, or what would be the biggest challenge in terms of enabling technology to achieve what you want to achieve?
The advantage you have being in a greenfield environment, we can look at 10 years from now where we want to be. And most of the city or company, they look at what I need to do in the next 12 months. And that's pretty, I can tell you my experience. I worked in Hewlett-Packard before. There was only the plan to look at the next 12 months. Now my plan is to look at the next 5 years. So I can plan ahead of time, and then we can see what do we need from years from now. How much carbon emission we want to decrease by 5 years from now, and what can we do to make it happen. So it is extremely important that you plan away in advance, and also you can simulate what is the consequence if you go right or left. That's definitely what we do. So planning and simulating what can be go right or wrong is important. Actually, we are learning from mistake done in any other country, how we can avoid that. That's what we do as well.
I think today you can access innovation, let's say, everywhere. You think today you have what you need in terms of like technology, in terms of enabling factors?
You don't know what is the technology 3 years from now. I'll give you an example. When we build data center, we look at how much is the consumption of data. Data is growing exponentially. In Saudi, it's growing, the cloud adoption is growing about 37%. So when we look at exponential the data, we know today what's going to be the consumption 3 years from now. Do we know what is 5 years from now? We don't know. We don't know who is going to be the next unicorn 5 years from now. Nobody was talking about metaverse 5 years ago. Maybe a few companies, but was still in early stage. Now everybody's talking about metaverse. Metaverse is going to have a huge consumption of data center. That means a huge consumption of energy. That means a new consumption of connectivity. So 5 years from now, we maybe have another game changer that we don't know right now. So that's the reason why scalability is extremely important, to make sure that whatever you build is flexible and scalable to make it happen. Yeah.
And what do you think your bottlenecks will be, like most likely in the near future? We hear about global crisis in terms of like components, materials, and so on. What is your view in terms of like bottlenecks can be from any sort?
Well, COVID learned to us a big lesson. We were not prepared. Nobody was prepared. We were not prepared. Even us, we were not prepared. We had some delay in some projects because of that, on supply chain, because everything was stopped. Imagine if you need to build, you need a lot of supply chain. So, but this give us a lesson that whatever you build, even a building, need to be flexible. You cannot build just a building to do a specific task. That building, maybe in 3 years, maybe need to build in a different way. We never thought during COVID that you need an area where you can do sanitization, you can check people. We never thought about that. We never thought to have everything that was supposed to do. Tomorrow we may have another crisis, we don't know. So the way you build need to be flexible to welcome any crisis you can have. And that's what we learned that we didn't know before.
Yeah, very clear. I will open soon floor for questions. Maybe just to set up the stage, here we are in a startup conference, innovation conference. So maybe some of the people in front of us would like to know how a startup that is developing something that can have a play in a smart city environment can collaborate with you. So what is your view in terms of collaboration with startups? What you guys are planning in that
that's
respect?
a very good question. Actually, it's part of my responsibility. So we are building what we call the Tech and Digital Hub. We want to create an hub that will be physically, also virtually, where we can allow startup inventor to join the NEOM project, not only physically coming over there, but also virtually. That's where we're going. We call the Tech and Digital Hub. We are going to have different phases of that, and we want to make sure that we understand what you can offer. We can go to a process to evaluate the company and see if we can add value to what we are trying to do. And so we are open to look, because we want to create an ecosystem that we allow every tech talent or company to be shared with NEOM. As I said before, we cannot do everything with ourselves.
Very clear. So, please don't be shy. If you have questions, so just raise your hand and I'll give you the word. Maybe yeah.
I've got one question, but first, I'm really impressed by what you're currently doing at NEOM. It's amazing and it's great. But my question is about existing cities. I know we're talking about cognitive cities, and it's also part of the future. I live in Madrid, but also in Cambridge, and it's a very small town. What can existing cities, what can they do differently to start thinking about bringing some of the amazing aspects of the work that you are doing at NEOM?
Yeah, so first of all, it's all about data and consent management, because you want to make sure that if you want to move from smart to cognitive, you need to enable the transfer and the sharing of the data in a right way, not in a way that everybody can grab your data to sell the data to someone else. So we are building a consent platform that will enable, there will be this consent platform for NEOM, but can be used for other cities as well. There will enable a way that you can connect different entities, you can consent what we can use, what you cannot use, so that we allow to have a smart, seamless integration between different entities. Because if the entity will not talk to each other, you cannot predict. You cannot know what is happening next. You can predict, I'll give you an example. We talked about mobility before. Today, a Google app can predict the traffic. Now, it cannot, I need to go in an airport in 2 hours. I don't know how it's going to be the traffic in 2 hours. In 2 hours, I will know. But if I ask you today, can you tell me the traffic in 2 hours? You will never know. Why? Because Google can map the movement of the car. Can map, because Google knows everything, so they know where you are, they can map. They can even map where you are going if you put, I need to go from A to B. But not everybody's putting, I need to go from A to B. Someone already where they need to know. They don't put on the navigator, just drive. I don't know this person how he's driving, unless the person consent to share anonymous the data traffic. That's cognitive. So I know what is the traffic 2 hours from now. That's an example.
Maybe a question regarding how we can leverage possibly in the future the competences and the learning that you will be accumulating with NEOM for, let's say, providing services to maybe other countries, other cities. How do you think the NEOM organization can establish itself in the future, maybe as a reference?
No, it's our aim. We want to help the planet. One of the reasons why I joined the NEOM is because you can make an impact to the planet in the way you build, the way you look at sustainability, the way you look at reduce the carbon free. So that's something we can teach. We can tell, we can leverage what we have done, we can leverage the application, the solution we build to other cities to use. There is no doubt about that. That's our aim. We want to take NEOM as a reference point for other countries to make it better.
Yeah. A question I like to ask to any entrepreneur. You, to some extent, are entrepreneur in the sense that you are managing full P&L for some of the building blocks of the city. What wakes you up? What keeps you wake up at night? What do you think can go wrong? What will slow you down possibly? Like what do you think are the things that you fear the most? For developing this project at the moment. Don't speak about the next COVID. We will hopefully don't have the next COVID, right? But more like from an operational perspective.
Yeah, what will keep me at night is to make sure that what we are doing will have enough flexibility to adapt. Adaptation is the most important thing. And I want to make sure whatever we build is adaptable to change, because change will come. And if you are not adapted to change, you will never do anything. So that's, we are paranoid to make sure that whatever we build is flexible enough to be adjusted.
I keep looking at people in case you have questions, don't hesitate. In your specific area, which is the data centers, right? We see a massive explosion of data. Clearly the infrastructure today is the infrastructure, data center infrastructure, it's a very old industry to some extent that has not been a lot of innovation in the past, although like from a computing perspective, innovation has been there. Everything is on the cloud now, but from the infrastructure, from the metal side of the equation, not so much innovation has been going on in the last few years. So what do you think, what do you look at from that perspective, considering the additional needs that data centers will have in the future with the explosion of data?
Yeah, first of all, data center is generic, but you can have different data center. You can have data center to host a cloud provider like AWS, Microsoft, Oracle, other. You can have data center to host game. You can have data center to host crypto. You can have data center for host content provider like Netflix or other. So each one needs to build in a different way. But the most important thing of a data center is how much you can reduce the energy consumption.
Sustainability.
That's sustainability. But reduction is not only how much green energy you use, but how much you can reduce the consumption of energy. It means you can optimize. The server are not up and running 24/7. They have a different moment. So if you have an AI cognitive inside the data center, understand what is the forecast of the consumption of the compute power, you can reduce the air condition inside, you can plan this one. That's what you need to do. Using AI is extremely important also to predict how the data center will evolve. At the end of the day, we are paranoid on the consumption, on the what we call the PUE, how much you can reduce the factor of the energy, because that means that you use less energy for the data center that can use from someone else.
Very clear.